Hello everyone, welcome again to our academy. We are continuing our course How to Think Logically, and we will talk about applications on the forms of evidence. Thinking is divided into understanding and judgment. Understanding needs definition, judgment needs evidence. Definition is made of matter and form. Evidence is made of matter and form. The matter of definition includes essentials and accidentals. The form of definition is to start by general concepts and move towards special ones. The form of evidence includes syllogism, induction, and analogy. A limiting definition uses essentials. A descriptive one uses accidentals. Let's talk about applications on the forms of evidence: syllogism, induction, and analogy. In syllogism, we move from a general premise to a special conclusion, which is true and certain, provided that the premises are true and certain. In induction, we move from special premises to a general conclusion, which is uncertain. In analogy, we move from special premises to a special conclusion, which is uncertain. The judgment which applies on the general concept always apply on the special ones. The judgment which applies on a special concept doesn't always apply on the general one. The judgment which applies on a special concept doesn't always apply on another special one. Syllogism may be represented as A is B, every B is C, so A is C. The conclusion is always true and certain, provided that the premises are true and certain. In syllogism, there is always a meaning which is repeated in the premises and is not present in the conclusion. As we already know, in general principles, we must search for certainty and truth, so we must use syllogism. However, in personal applications, we may use uncertainty, so we may use induction and analogy. Let's look at these examples of syllogism. Isaac Newton once said that falling is an event. Every event has a cause, so falling has a cause. This is a general or a universal premise. This is a special or a particular conclusion. This is the repeated meaning in the premises which is not present in the conclusion, so this is a syllogism. Injustice is an evil thing. Every evil thing leads to misery, so injustice leads to misery. This is a universal or a general premise, and this is a special or a particular conclusion. And this is a meaning which is repeated in the two premises and is not present in the conclusion. So this is a syllogism. In this example, we are discussing a general principle. So we must search for certainty and truth. So we must use syllogism. Let's look at this example. Jack is an apple. Every apple is a metal, so Jack is a metal. This is a general or a universal premise, and this is a special or a particular conclusion. And this is a meaning which is repeated in the two premises and is not present in the conclusion. So this is a syllogism. What is wrong about this syllogism? The premises here are not true and are not certain, so the conclusion is not true and is not certain. So it's very important to remember that for a syllogism to produce a certain and a true conclusion, the premises must be true and certain. Let's look at some examples of induction. Lion moves its lower jaw. Donkey moves its lower jaw. Giraffe moves its lower jaw, and so on. So, every animal moves its lower jaw. These are special premises, and this is a general conclusion. So, this is an induction. The conclusion is uncertain. It may be wrong. In fact, this conclusion is wrong, as a crocodile moves its upper jaw. Another example. Sarah is a victim of sexual harassment in this company. Monica is a victim of sexual harassment in this company. So, every girl is a victim of sexual harassment in this company. These are special premises, and this is a general conclusion, which is uncertain. However, in personal applications, we may use uncertainty. If you are a girl, there is a possibility that you will be a victim of sexual harassment if you work in this company. So, you must be cautious. Let's look at this example. In this classroom, we have 30 students. The first one is Chinese, the second one is Chinese, the third one is Chinese, and so on, until we reach the 30th one, which is also a Chinese. So, after studying every single individual, we reach a general conclusion, which is every student in this classroom is Chinese. This is a complete induction. A complete induction is an induction in which we study every single individual before generalization. The conclusion here is true and certain, provided that the premises are true and certain. So, if every single student is really a Chinese and you are certain about this, the conclusion will be certain and true. Every student in this classroom is a Chinese. However, this type of induction, the complete induction, can only be used when the studied individuals are few. For example, if you want to study all the Chinese people, this is impossible because some of them were in the past and some of them will be born in the future. So, studying all the Chinese is impossible by induction. In fact, in our life, many people use incomplete induction a lot. For example, you may have one or two bad relationships. So, you reach a conclusion that everybody hates me. This is an incomplete induction. This conclusion is uncertain. And of course, it's wrong. Not everybody in the earth hates you. Another example. You may visit a foreign country. The first person you meet is not honest. The second one is not honest. So you may reach a conclusion that says that every person in this country is not honest. This conclusion is uncertain. And of course, it is wrong. You must be cautious dealing with other people in this country and in other countries. But this general judgment is wrong. Let's see some examples about analogy. Mike is a bad neighbor. Mark is a neighbor too, so Mark is bad too. These are special premises, and this is a special conclusion. So this is an analogy. The conclusion here is uncertain. In personal applications, you may use uncertainty, so you may use analogy. So you may be cautious dealing with Mark, but you can't judge him as a bad neighbor for sure. And if you do so, this is wrong, and this is unfair and injustice. Another example. Heart is a pump. An engine is a pump and needs energy. So heart needs energy. These are special premises, and this is a special conclusion, which is uncertain. So this is analogy. Analogy may be used in explaining, as in this example, but the conclusion is always uncertain. If someone concluded that heart is made of metals as an engine, this is wrong. Let's see some detailed applications on the forms of evidence. As we have said, in general principles, we need certainty, and the truth, we must use syllogism. In personal applications, we may use uncertainty. We may use induction and analogy. For example, if you want to choose a university to study in, first, you must use a syllogism in the general principles. For example, good education needs good teachers and good teaching methods. Every good teachers and every good teaching methods must respect individual differences. So, good education must respect individual differences. In personal applications, you may use uncertainty. You may use induction. So, if you want to know your abilities, you may say, in primary school I was good in mathematics. In high school I was good in mathematics. So, every time I am good in mathematics. This is uncertain conclusion, but you can use it in personal applications. You can also use analogy. For example, you may say, my cousin went to a foreign university, felt homesick, and didn't succeed. I am going to a foreign university as well, so I may feel homesick and not to succeed. This is a possibility. So you must have a plan to deal with your homesickness, overcome it, and to succeed. Another example. If you are looking for social relationships for your children, first, you must use a syllogism in the general principles. For example, my children are human beings. Every human being needs good social relationships. So, my children need good social relationships. In personal applications, you may use uncertainty. You may use induction. You may ask your neighbors about how they helped their children to make good social relationships. Children of the first neighbor enjoy the nearby club. Children of the second neighbor enjoy the nearby club. Children of the third neighbor enjoy the nearby club. So, every children enjoy the nearby club. This conclusion is uncertain, but you may use it in your personal applications. You may send your children to the nearby club. You may also use analogy. For example, your nephew goes to the nearby club and he's a victim of bullying. Your children are going to the same nearby club, so they may be victims of bullying. This possibility is present, and you should have a plan to deal with it. So, in personal applications, we may use induction and analogy. We have studied the forms of evidence. Syllogism, in which we move from general to special. Induction, in which we move from special to general. Analogy, in which we move from special to special. Syllogism gives true and certain conclusion, provided that the premises are true and certain. Complete induction gives true and certain conclusion, provided that the premises are true and certain. In general principles, we must search for certainty and truth. In personal applications, we may use uncertainty, so we may use incomplete induction and analogy. However, we should try to reach strong judgment, even if they are uncertain. In the next time, we'll start talking about the matter of evidence, which is very, very important. Thank you.